Welcome to the StayiN Wild and Well podcast. My name is Rin, and my greatest accomplishment is being alive. Here we talk about life's journey, the ups, the downs, the in-betweens, all things mental health, body, mind, and spirit. We share wild stories and keeping your wild alive while staying well. Welcome to the StayiN Wild and Well podcast. If you are new here, my name is Rin, and I am so excited to dive into this topic today. It's a little bit more of a freestyle topic that I felt was important to speak to because I had posted a short on YouTube, and I felt like there was a bit of a misunderstanding, and I was being a little bit tested by an individual, and I was like, you know what? We should talk about this. What do I mean when I say your inner knowing and that I want you to connect to your truth? Because that's so broad, right? Like people might think that what I mean is like they're living their truth right now, like their day to day. But really what I'm talking about is a feeling within. And you might agree with me. You might disagree with me. I am not here for either of those. I am here to share and to enlighten and to speak to what I believe. And if you are in alignment, amazing. And if you're not, that's okay too. And if you have questions and you want to go deeper, to reach out to me because I love these conversations. So what do I mean by connecting to your inner knowing? What do I mean by connecting to your truth? I am speaking about a feeling within, and it is not something that is easily described. So typically when I'm working with clients and we start to speak about spirit, trusting our inner knowing, I ask them, choose somebody you love in your life, and they do. And I say, okay, how do you know you love them? And they will say things like, well, the way they make me feel. They'll say, well, because when we're together, X, Y, Z, the way they look at me, they'll name physical things, or like I mentioned, because of the way they make me feel. And I will say, I don't believe you. Prove it to me. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And I go, no, I want you to prove to me that you love them. And they ultimately say they can't. And I think that if you choose somebody in your life right now, if I kept telling you, no matter what gesture you told me, no matter how you tried to explain that I didn't believe you loved them, there is no real way to convince me. And ultimately, you'd come to the solution and understanding that it doesn't really matter what I think. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks because you know, because you feel it within. And it is not something that you can put an image to. It is not something that can be easily described. It is a feeling within your soul, within your being, that allows you to know that you love this person. Regardless of the type of love, because we know that there's many different types of love, it is a feeling that you just know. And that's what I mean by your inner knowing. It is just a feeling that you know. Now, we can call it spirit. We can call it intuition. We can call it that inner knowing. We can call it God. We can call it Gaia. We can call it whatever the frick you want to call it. I don't care. But we all have this knowing inside of us. And so when I say that I want you to connect to your inner knowing, this is the part that I want you to deep dive into. And when I speak to the egoic self, often when we hear the word ego, we think that that's a bad thing. And in today's westernized spiritual world, a lot of people speak to the ego needing to die. And I'm here to say absolutely not. We need our ego. Our ego is the part of us that shows up in human form, the part that gets ready to go and perform on stage, the part that goes into the job interview all confident. The ego is the parts of us that get pulled out to show up in human world. It's the confidence we exude. And not only is it these things, it's also the negative voices we hear. It is the 3D version of us and the part that humanizes us. And I always say to reach true enlightenment is when the ego and the spirit are dancing together. And again, if you don't like the word spirit, and for the sake of this video, I will call it spirit because that is what I feel it is. It's this beautiful dance where you know when to pull the ego out, when to use it, when to quiet it, when to recognize it. It is becoming conscious, your conscious awareness growing and being able to see yourself in a different light, being able to see life in a different light. So that's what I mean. Now, I've had many conversations with people where, it's like, well, Rin, you do crystals and you read cards, and that's still very cult-like. And that is still, you're putting yourself in a box. And as I've continued to go on my journey, what I try to express to individuals in terms of my view on spirit and inner knowing is it doesn't fit inside of a box. People often ask me, like, what is this crystal used for? And I'm like, I don't freaking know. Like, when I buy my crystals, or when I get given crystals, or when I go and collect them outside, because I love collecting natural rocks and crystals, they are intuitively utilized for me. And some of them I will purchase and understand the properties and utilize them. And when I do spreads of any sort, it's whatever feels good to me in that moment. I am connecting with me. I am connecting with my guides. I'm connecting with my inner knowing. I'm connecting with the earth energies that are connected to us entirely. The tree, the plants, the rocks, the water, the ocean, like all of it. I'm connecting to these things based on my personal experience and what I feel inside. I will never, ever judge an individual for their belief systems, or what religion or culture or what they do in order to feel good, because it is truly an individual experience. But when I am telling people that I want them to live in their truth, it is the dismantling of the belief systems that have been taught to us, things that maybe you've been indoctrinated into. It is media, it is ancestral wounding, it is the playbook and the subconscious mind in the background that's rolling that we don't even realize is impacting our day-to-day. To reach your truth is to undo all the things that you have been taught, to reach a space where you know in your core and in your feeling that this is my truth. This is who I am. This is what I am. And even by saying this is who I am, and you're going to see, like, this might be hard to follow. When you say this is who I am, again, that is the ego subscribing a label to this beautiful human body that gets to live on earth. Inner knowing spirit for me is not a male, it's not a female, it is not a color, it is not an image. It is everlasting energy that cannot go away, that does transform over time, but it follows us through this journey, and it connects with other energies, and it knows familiar energy, and it knows when things feel wrong. Like, it is a feeling, and it's not a specific activity. It's nothing that we do in the human form. And I think sometimes when we look at spirituality, and it's become quite trendy now, like the crystals and the card readings and sage and all these beautiful things that, like, hey, I do. It has also gotten a little bit tainted because it's become trendy. I'm encouraging you not to go on YouTube and search what everyone else is doing. And instead, I encourage you to tune in and tap in. This past summer, I was told, by a friend of mine, my family thinks you're like a witch. And I'm like, I don't subscribe to any specific title. And I don't want you to either, because here's the other piece. You are constantly evolving. You are constantly changing. You are constantly shifting. Also, when I say, and I want to be so clear, like when we are talking about tapping into our truth and tapping into our inner knowing, like what I've come to learn is sometimes our truth in our body feels so real. Like, it feels real to us. It is also important to use the logical mind. That is why we have been given this human life and experience. So I'm not just saying dive all in, only listen to your truth, only feel into what is good. Like, you do have to use logic at times. There is a time and place to tune in and tap into that egoic self and the logic of the brain to make decisions. It's interesting that people can hear you speak and they could take what you're saying to a whole other level. All we know is our own truth and what feels right to us. And so for me, when I speak to, and this conversation can go so much deeper, but when I speak to spirit, consciousness, inner knowing, that connection inside, there is nothing that I could ever do to place an imagery to it, to describe it in a way that you could fully get outside of what I'm saying right now, because it is solely a feeling, just like love. And that is exactly what it is. And that's why I use love as an example when I'm trying to help my clients understand what I mean by inner knowing and connecting to their truth and their spirit, is that we are all love. Every single person here is love. And that is what is inside of us. And you might be listening to this and you might say, no, I know people that aren't love, and I know people that have darkness and they do things, and the things we hear in the news and the darkness, but that is ego. At the very core of our being, we are all so interconnected. Energetically, universally. And if we could start to reach a place of love more often, from within ourselves and the way we see people, life shifts a little bit. Things start to change. And it is a place that I love to live from. And it doesn't have to be understood, because I'm not here to help you understand my personal experience, and you're not here to help anybody else understand yours. And the whole point of this video right now is to bring clarity around what I mean when I say tapping into spirit and tapping into ego, and when we're making decisions to tune into what feels right to us, to live a whole, complete life that matches up to who we are at our core. Because what I can promise you is, when you are living inauthentically, when you are ignoring that feeling, it isn't going to leave you alone. It's going to continue to pop up, and it gets louder and louder. And the more we ignore it and the longer it takes us, the deeper and darker we have to go, and the more that is around us, surrounds us, is affected. I don't know. The more I've gone on this journey, I don't want to take the long road. I just want to go in. I want to dive in. I want to feel it. I want to move through it. I want to experience it. And I just know that I don't need to explain it. And I hope that this connects with you or helps bring clarity if you were unsure of what I meant by inner knowing and spirit and reaching your truth, because we often think we are living our truth because of the way that we have been raised and the things that we've been taught. But when you are called into your truth, it often shakes your core, and you are asked to make really tough decisions that you may not be ready to make. You have to be willing to let go of the old version of you, the life that you had. And in that letting go, and in that surrender, and in that softening, and in the grief and the messiness of it all, this beauty and joy emerges and growth. And it's like a piece that, man, you'd do it all over again if it meant that you would feel the way you feel. This episode was a quick one just to try and bring clarity around what I mean. And if this doesn't resonate with you, that is okay. And if it does and you want to dive in deeper, please reach out to me, because living from that space, catching your dreams and making the life that you truly want a reality, that deep alignment is the greatest gift. So at the end of the day, ego and spirit must dance together in harmony and live this beautiful life, and recognizing that we are so beautifully human and we're not going to escape the human experience. And beneath the surface of the human experience, at our core, our inner knowing, our spirit is love, and we are all so deeply interconnected as one.